What would you do if the forest, the place you trusted to be silent, grounding, alive in the most natural way, suddenly looked back at you? I used to think I understood solitude. That's why I planned the trip. 2 weeks. Just me, a backpack, and a stretch of wilderness so remote that the nearest road was a full day's hike away. No signal, no noise, no distractions. Just the rhythm of wind through trees and the slow, steady reassurance that the world could still exist without constant connection. I needed that. Work had been relentless. Life had been loud. Every second filled with something artificial. Screens, notifications, expectations. I wanted to strip all of that away and prove to myself that I could still exist without it. That I could still be whole. The first 4 days were exactly what I had hoped for. Perfect, even. I arrived just after sunrise, the sky still streaked with pale gold and soft blue. The air was crisp in a way you only get deep in the woods, where every breath feels cleaner than the last. I followed the trail until it disappeared, then kept going, guided by a map and the kind of confidence that only comes from thinking you're prepared. By noon, I found the spot, a clearing near a lake, not large, but wide enough to reflect the sky like glass. Pines surrounded it on all sides, tall and unmoving, like silent guardians. The ground was soft with needles, and there was a natural rise that made for the perfect campsite, elevated just enough to stay dry if it rained. It felt untouched. That mattered to me more than anything. I set up my tent slowly, deliberately. Every movement felt meaningful out there. There was no rush, no pressure, just the quiet satisfaction of building something simple and functional. By the time I finished, the sun was high and warm, filtering through the trees in thin, golden beams. That first night, I slept better than I had in months. No sirens, no distant traffic, just the soft chorus of insects and the occasional ripple of water at the lake's edge. I remember lying there, staring up through the mesh of my tent at the stars, more than I'd ever seen before. It felt like the sky had opened up just for me. Days 2, 3, and 4 followed the same gentle rhythm. Wake with the sun, boil water, eat something simple, explore. I hiked along the lake's edge, found animal tracks, watched birds skim the surface of the water. I even started talking out loud. Not because I was lonely, but because it felt natural. Like the forest didn't mind, like it listened without judging. By day 4, I felt different, lighter, like whatever weight I'd carried into the woods had been left somewhere along the trail behind me. That's why night 5 felt so wrong. It started small. It always does, I guess. The day itself had been normal. Clear skies, steady breeze, nothing out of place. I spent most of it following a narrow game trail that led deeper into the forest. I remember thinking how quiet it was, even for a place like that. No birds for long stretches, no distant rustling, just stillness. But I didn't think much of it at the time. I came back to camp before sunset, cooked a simple meal, and sat by the lake as the light faded. The water was perfectly still. Too still, maybe. No insects touching the surface, no fish breaking it, just a mirror. I went to bed early. That's when it started. I woke up to a sound. Not loud, not sharp, just wrong. At first, I thought it was something natural. A branch shifting maybe. An animal moving through the underbrush. But as I lay there, half awake, I realized it didn't fit. It wasn't random. It was rhythmic. A soft, deliberate clicking sound, spaced evenly, like something tapping lightly against wood or stone. It came from somewhere beyond the edge of the clearing, just far enough that I couldn't pinpoint it exactly. I checked my watch. 2:17 a.m. I told myself it was nothing. That's the thing about being alone in the woods. Your mind fills in gaps. It creates patterns where there aren't any. I'd read about that, expected it even. So I closed my eyes, tried to ignore it, but then it stopped, and the silence that followed was worse, because it wasn't normal silence. It felt aware. I sat up in my tent, listening. The forest should have been alive with small sounds. Insects, leaves, distant movement. But there was nothing, not even the wind, just that heavy, pressing quiet. Then I heard something else. Footsteps. Not the light, uneven movement of an animal, but something measured, intentional, slow, step, pause, circling the clearing. I froze. Every instinct told me to stay still, to stay quiet. My heart was pounding so hard, I was sure whatever was out there could hear it. The footsteps stopped, right at the edge of the trees. I could feel it. Something just beyond the line of darkness, standing there, watching. That's when the light appeared. Not bright, not blinding, just a faint, pale glow filtering through the trees. It wasn't like a flashlight or a lantern. It didn't move the way a beam should. It pulsed, softly, like it was breathing. I don't know why I did what I did next. Maybe curiosity, maybe fear twisted into something reckless. I unzipped the tent, slowly. The sound felt deafening in that silence. When I stepped out, the air felt different, thicker somehow, harder to breathe. The temperature had dropped, but not in a natural way. It wasn't cold, just empty. I took a step toward the trees. The light pulsed again, and then I saw it. At first, my brain refused to process what I was looking at. It tried to turn it into something familiar, a trick of the light, a shadow, anything that made sense. But it didn't. It stood between two trees, partially obscured. Tall. Too tall. Its shape was wrong. Not quite solid. Not quite anything I could define. It seemed to shift, even when it wasn't moving, like looking at something through heat distortion. And its eyes. No, not eyes. Points. Two small, steady points of that same pale light, fixed directly on me. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. It tilted, not its head, because I couldn't tell where its head began or ended. But something about it shifted, like it was studying me. Then the clicking started again, but this time it wasn't coming from the forest. It was coming from inside my head, sharp, precise, each click echoing through me like a signal trying to find meaning. And then, a thought, not mine, clear as anything I'd ever known. You are not singular. I staggered back. My mind raced, trying to reject it, to explain it away. But the presence didn't fade. If anything, it grew stronger. The thing in the trees took a step forward, and for a moment, the world shifted. That's the only way I can describe it. The clearing, the lake, the trees, everything seemed to peel back, just slightly, like a layer being lifted to reveal something underneath. Something vast. Something wrong. I saw flashes, not with my eyes, but somewhere deeper. Endless versions of the same place, the same moment, the same me, standing there, over and over again, like reflections in a broken mirror. And the thought came again, you are one of many. I screamed. I don't even remember deciding to run. 1 second I was standing there, frozen in that impossible moment. And the next, I was tearing through the clearing, grabbing whatever I could without thinking. My hands shook so badly, I could barely pack. I left half my gear behind, Didn't care. None of it mattered anymore. The light was still there, closer now, the clicking, louder. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I just ran. Through the trees, into the dark, guided by nothing but blind panic and the desperate need to get away from whatever that thing was, whatever it had shown me. Branches tore at my arms. Roots caught my feet. I fell more times than I can count, but I kept getting up because I knew, somehow, instinctively, that if I stopped, if I turned around, I wouldn't come back, not as me. I ran until the sky began to lighten, until the sounds of the forest slowly returned, tentative at first, then normal. Birds, wind, life. By the time I reached the trail, I was barely conscious. A hiker found me later that morning, miles from where I should have been. I couldn't explain anything to them, couldn't even form the words. I just kept repeating the same thing over and over. I have to leave. I have to leave. I cut the trip short, obviously. Didn't go back for my gear, didn't even consider it, and I've never been camping since. Not alone, not even close. People ask me why. I tell them I just don't enjoy it anymore, that I prefer comfort, that I've grown out of it. It's easier that way. Because how do you explain something like that? How do you tell someone that the woods, the place that once made you feel most connected to the world, now feels like a thin veil over something else entirely? Something watching, something waiting. And sometimes, when I close my eyes at night, when everything is quiet enough, I hear it again, that clicking, slow, deliberate, patient, and I can't shake the feeling that it never stopped following me, that it's still trying to understand something about me, about us, about how many of us there really are. If you enjoyed tonight's story, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. And if you have a creepy story of your own that you'd like featured on talesthyme, send it to talesthyme@gmail.com. Your story could be next.